each member of the Erasion sex, it makes complete sense just to be these characters that are interesting looking. They just kind of pop in, and I would imagine they all have mostly relatively gimmicky existences in terms of like their presence and their personalities. I got one out of those five that I think is a wild card, but we'll see. I'm going to do a video on them as well. But out of those, because obviously the number is 6 and not just the 5, because out of Aetheria's groups made by Ferris that we have so far, her Aetherius, one of them is made from a body, is made from a actual corpse of somebody, that being Brain/Zero. And it was very strange in terms of the idea of let's bring him back and put him into the story. Not like strange of like it doesn't make any sense, more of strange of like this was just a very odd idea of where to kind of take this, because you could relatively have made this same argument for a couple characters, similar to like, as already mentioned, we have with like Merity talking about them feeling like Hades. You have Xianma. You could even easily said like, you know, if you really wanted to do like crazy callback as Jose, I think Zero makes for a fun one, because he's just is somebody that I feel like if you like characters like, but you know, mad berserkers, you're gonna like Zero. He's just a fun guy to have around. He's just kind of crazy. But right now, he's even had a fair amount of development, even coming out of just pretty much stepping into the arc. And it's like him just not being a completely unhinged lunatic being development. It's like it is, because it actually shows like now he's thinking in more than just in one direction of you know, destroy, wreck, and pulverize. And now he has a degree of control and sensibility to him, but he still wants to do this. And I'm looking forward to seeing where he's going to be going in this arc and seeing what he's going to be doing in the large scope of things, because it's either going to be he could be like a long runner, he's going to be like their number 2, and maybe somebody like Wed, because there's a couple things about him that's really interesting, from the fact that he's the Aetherius made from a corpse similar to that of Natsu, so he is in the same area again in idea of creation as somebody like, again, the main character, Xerath's most powerful Aetherius, and clearly somebody that would be a very high accomplishment for Zero to even be within the same scope of. I mean, he has some pretty good showing so far, like where he was able to destroy Urza's sword and shatter her armor just from the physical force, like blowback of blocking a punch from him. And he's, I would assume, in like 2 degrees of base, like he's locked up because he has the markings on his face similar to what Brain had. So when those go away, I would assume Brain takes over. My belief is that it's going to be like they go away, Brain takes over, and his Aetherius is like them at the same time, and they like merge. And it maybe is some way instead supposed to be some mirror of like the Signario sisters, but instead it's 2 trapped in one body that instead of fusing to become some weird amalgamation, it's like the 2 that are set in one body. But then that would make me curious. It's like, is if he would at that point be like a mere nod at them, is there going to be somebody above him that Ferris ends up pulling out? Who knows? Zero is neat because he could easily just be, yeah, I'm gonna bring him back. He gets defeated, and whatever, like a good chunk of the way into the arc, he gets defeated, and then it's like, okay, well, he's a segue into showing these other characters that were brought back. Because like, what again, like what if she brings back someone like Hades as an Aetherius? That would be really cool. And Zero, though, like Zero is really cool. I like Zero. I don't imagine Zero has a ton of like vocal fans, but like if you asked your average Fairy Tail fan of like who would you rather in this scenario come back and see as like a returning villain, people would more so likely pick someone like Hades over Zero, just because he's a much bigger, impactful character and big to the lore. But Zero, I'm hoping, has a personal run. If he ends up being shorter, I don't mind if he is somebody who leads into us understanding more what's going on and later events. But for now, I'm just going to hope that he goes on a rampage. We see him running wild for a bit. Because personally, I think that there's a lot of just general neat stuff you could do with him, because if he's in the same idea as somebody like Natsu, is he like a prototype for Ferris? Is she still trying to do this? Did she kind of just stop with him? Is she still going to try? Well, there's a lot of just stuff in this area around like what's going to happen between Ferris and just the fact that she was able to do this. Is she going to keep developing Aetherius, or is she going to go on to doing other types of black magic in, in interest for whatever she's got planned next? It's a very intriguing just character to throw into things, because to me as well, when you see Ferris and you see her whole bit where she goes and she finds Acnologia's arm, we don't know exactly how long it had been laying there before she showed up. It could have been a day, it could have been a week, who knows? We don't really know also the rot rate of like a super powerful artificial dragon like Acnologia would be. But even if you say it was a day, whatever, consistent with what we would then kind of guess is that she seems to be wandering around and like acquiring things. And it would make me think again that she has other bodies other than just Zero. But also, what other things has she come across that she's going to be adding into it? Because she also talks about them being touched by the abyss of black magic, which I wonder if that is a similar or just a similar thing to the abyss of magic, or it's just a renaming. I personally think that it is what Hades saw, because it makes sense to me. It's like Hades went down there, he saw it more as like the realness of magic and like the true state of magic, and obviously like its roots and origins and whatnot. But I think based off of where he was at, it would also make a lot of sense as if it was the abyss of black magic and he was just misunderstood because he was already so far astray that he wasn't willing to accept reality outside of like where he was looking. He was just kind of be like, well, Zeref is what I'm going with, so it doesn't really matter if it's black magic. I consider it to be all the same, kind of like logic, which I think would make a lot of sense for Hades. But for Zero right now, I'm really looking forward to this next chapter. I'm going to try and get this one out. Probably I'll try and get it on Monday before the next chapter, just in case if Natsu just goes hog wild and just decimates Zero and I can be really sad. Or maybe I'll hold it until after and we'll do it, because if you make it to this point of the video, I'm planning to do a stream on Monday before the next chapter. I guess it's really hard to say what exactly day is, but it's like very clear. It's like before the next fairy tale chapter, where it's like the last one Natsu showed up and he was facing off with Zero, and Zero looked pretty pissed. So we'll see exactly where he's going to be going to. I'm hoping that we're going to find out more of what he's got in upgrades. Does he have a new black magic? Is he going to call it just like, am I finally going to get like confirmation that it's like, oh, he's got black, I would guess it was dark Rondo, just black Rondo now, because his magic, they just call it was just dark magic before. And then it's like when you look at like attributes, it's like with Genesis Zero, he's got like dark spatial magic. There wasn't anything like an archetype or branch that you could really go off of. Maybe we'll get a name for it. That would be really cool if he already had black magic and we get an official name for his magic, like black rhythm magic or something like that. And that's why he like laughs a bunch and he's crazy. It's like in his head he hears music and he's just enjoying the battle. That would actually be amazing if we got like a Zero POV for like a bit of a chapter. We just hear like his thoughts and we figure out a little bit more about him. I don't know. Either way though, he to me is such an interesting character to have back in the story for so many reasons. Like I said, just from a standpoint of Ferris making an Aetherius out of a person, because I would imagine just from what Zeref, because when you look at stuff, Zeref created tens of thousands of Aetherius, but when it comes to ones with a body, we saw 5 of those cocoons when he finished and made Natsu. So assumingly, I would say like out of these ones, there was a higher degree of difficulty than doing it from scratch at that point for him. But maybe that has to do with kind of like how Hell's Core later became. Like, I feel like you connected them, and then so that's how like Mard Gear and all that were able to do it with people. And then Ferris was able to do it easier because it's just Zeref already invented it, so it's an easier process if you just study what his teachings were. So it's like, again, he just has so much that he can just provide into the world for gaps in what we don't know about black magic. 100 Years Quest has done a great job at expanding the fairy tale world. I would really love it if we would eventually get some form of like, if open world game where it just gave you the options to kind of pick between all these different magics and alchemy, curses, spirit arts, and just do everything. It's like one of those things. Obviously, people like a lot of people would want to do like Dragon Slayer, but like I think it'd be really cool to see what you can do, mix and match, and kind of like do a style like that. It would just kind of be hard to see what kind of game they would make, like a Fairy Tale Elden Ring or something like that. I feel like that'd be pretty sick to make a game kind of like that. I wish that you know what, it's just like as a finisher, that should be the new thing where they move. It's like, hey, either do a 2D fighting game as like, just kind of until you get it concrete enough to kind of move into different games. I guess our turn-based RPG is obviously up there, so 3 things, and then they add in Elden World or Elden Ring. Yeah, they call it Elden World for copyright. Elden Ring style games where it's just a big area where you choose between abilities and weapons and spells, and you go about your day. But other than that, I'm really looking forward to seeing what Zero has to offer, and we've only had a little bit of him so far. And out of all the characters right now that we haven't had directly state what their black magic is, Zero is one of them. Zero Gate and Guy are the only ones that haven't told us directly at the point of recording this video. So I will be looking forward to seeing what exactly Zero is going to be saying in the next couple of chapters, because I would assume he's going to be giving some exposition into his situation. But anyway, other than that, comment below, thumbs up the video, friend the like button, subscribe button, and check out my other videos. From that, appreciate results, subscribe, and thank you all for listening. Bye.